Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Diva Dads, episode 7. We have a very special guest, and I am stoked for this evening. Hey, what's going on with everybody?
Oh my gosh, we're closing up week 3 of kids camp, so I'm great. I'm tired. It's amazing, but I am definitely ready for a break.
Or Adrian has to be like with a Bettis like 18 hours of the day.
Kaden, I think he was hesitant at first, but I think he's all in now. He goes at his own pace, but I think he's fully invested in this story about Dorothy landing in a land of chickens.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to hear about this.
I saw that there's a dragon in it. If you can put a dragon in anything, he's in.
A dragon that can't breathe fire because he's not breathing properly from his diaphragm.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah, makes sense.
They're brilliant. How are y'all?
Doing good. Busy day, busy week. So getting that house finished up. So
That's awesome.
you don't realize how much stuff you actually accumulate in 15 years. My goodness.
So do y'all have like an interim place? Like what's the deal? I know your house has got a contract on it, but what's happening?
Oh, long story. We're putting everything in pods, and we will probably rent until we find us a house.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's
Not the
about it.
dogs, though.
Oh no, not the dogs in storage. They're staying with us.
Well, my son. Oh, go ahead.
How was your week, Rodney?
My week has been driving back and forth to the theater because I take the ginger midget at 8, and then I pick the ginger midget up at noon, and then we go do lunch, which is usually at my mom's house, and then I take Josie back to the theater, and then I go pick her back up from the theater, and then we go out to like Lake Walk for rehearsals. So it's been lots of driving. Probably the most I've driven in like 3 months.
Yeah, I was thinking that the other day, having to fill up my car a lot more frequently than I used to, and partly it's because of Lake Walk. But I got to see you because we choreographed one of your numbers that is hilarious.
Two of my numbers.
Two of your numbers. Okay, Mike, you told us some great house news last week. Now you're going to tell us a little bit about what you do.
All right, so I do insurance here in Bryan College Station. I sell insurance, auto, home, life insurance. I've been doing it 11 years, and same company. And I'm actually, funny enough, July 1st, in a few weeks here, I've been with a company called Nationwide Insurance for years, and now I'm actually getting ready to become an independent broker to where I'll be able to represent multiple companies. So a lot of fun. And I thought at first I might sell the business, but great news, I'm actually keeping the business and staying. So that's going to be amazing. So yeah.
We're happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yes.
There is a little bit of theater news that I'm actually going to just mention briefly here, but I'm going to leave it to Tyler Lewis to talk about, and I'm going to be posting, you're going to be seeing this episode this weekend, and by that point you will have already seen his theater news on our Instagram. So don't forget to go to the Diva Dads Instagram, but he's going to talk a lot about what's happening with the Black community on Broadway and how they're responding to this movement as a community. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he has to say about that. But I want to get past Broadway and talk about our news and our little baby Broadway girl who's sitting right behind Rodney, that he's going to tell us all about her.
Yeah, so my daughter Josephine, come on in. So I had her hanging out in the wings. You can pull up your chair and sit, be comfortable.
Be too short.
Oh, so you're gonna stand? You're just gonna hover? Okay, that's fine. All right, so this is Josie. Josie, you've been going to theater camp this week. How's that going?
I have. It's been lots of fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What character are you playing in the story?
I'm playing Giuseppe, the sugar glider.
And what is unique about Giuseppe?
He screams Italian phrases all the time.
Do you know Italian phrases?
No.
They're
Give
making
us a sample.
different kinds of pasta.
I speak in fluent pasta.
Nice.
Very, very, very nice.
This story was mostly concocted by Brandon Topp along with Ryan Topp, and it is hilarious. Absolutely brilliant. And Josie, you are cracking me up every day. But why else is Josie here?
Josie's also here because I know some of you may have noticed that our branding has changed a little bit on the page. It used to just be our ugly mugs, but now we have been made much more beautiful through the art of Josephine.
Yay!
So
Yeah.
Josie created this for us.
Yeah.
And we
You're
put her
so
through
talented.
we put her through the ringer too. We were like, no, Mike doesn't have that big of a beard, and
Yeah.
mainly about Mike's beard. That's pretty much all it was.
How was it working for your dad, Josie, on this project?
I don't know. It was like working for my dad. I mean, said, "Can you draw this?" And I was like, "Eh." And then eventually he finally got me to do it.
How did I get you to do it?
You didn't tell me you were gonna pay me.
Oh,
that's
true.
for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm getting paid.
Nice.
Little girl.
Well, pay
Okay.
her and give her a raise because our logo is fantastic.
Yeah. Super
I do
awesome.
have a question, Josie. When I inevitably dye my hair again, are you going to be able to keep it updated?
Yeah.
Cool.
No problem.
You're hired.
There you go.
And when we start selling merch and coffee cups and T-shirts, Josie, let me know. I'll help you negotiate your royalty contract. Okay, don't let your dad, try to get one up on you. So.
Great.
All right.
Thank you so much, Josie.
But she's got something else because something showed up in my inbox the other day. It was this video. Apparently, there's been a response to our videos, not necessarily these long form videos, but these short form videos on some other platform. What's that all about? Tell me.
Well, it's a group of teenagers, teenage girls from the theater, and we're here to correct everything that y'all do.
What?
I'm glad you're holding us accountable.
Kind of. Yeah, we're gonna hopefully we can give some tips, and hopefully we can make y'all's content better.
Oh.
And specifically our TikTok content.
Hey, what's wrong with our TikTok content, Rodney?
There's a lot wrong with your TikTok content, Mike.
Yeah, and Mike, you had the most TikTok content for them to critique. So,
Josie, what is the name of this segment?
The T according to TTC Teens.
Perfect.
Nice.
Love it.
Perfect. So this is another reason to tune into the Diva Dads Instagram, because this tea time, according to the TTC Teens, is going to be a regularly updated segment, and I am excited and scared.
Love it.
All right, thanks, Josie. Go away.
All right. Thank you, Josie.
Bye, Josie.
Okay, the other thing that we need to talk about is a few weeks ago, I put out a video about our bingo cards. So if you guys did not see that video, it is on our major platforms, social media, Facebook primarily. But check that video out, and it shows you how that you can create your own bingo card so that this podcast is a little bit more interactive. And then if you're not into bingo cards, but you're more into cocktails, then it could easily be transitioned to a drinking game. And you could be quite tipsy by the end. Speaking of drinking, I think it's time for a cocktail. So Dana, if you would help me out, please.
Yes. Cueing the prep video now.
Hello, and welcome to another week of Drink Prep with Rodney. For this drink, we're going to make a shrub. And for a shrub, you need the following ingredients. You need a cup of red wine vinegar. You need a cup of granulated sugar. You need a cup of berries, blueberries, and red raspberries, and half a teaspoon of black peppercorn. Be sure to get them all off. Put them in the blender. And puree. Isn't that Pour your puree into a container. Put it in the refrigerator to chill until you're ready for your cocktails, love.
Beautiful.
Okay,
Wow.
so now that you've got your puree, your shrub, as it's so called, you know, I will have to say, I know you guys were looking forward to possibly partaking in a pickle cocktail, and I tried one. I really did. I tried it. It was 7 layers of awful. Like, oh my gosh.
Of course it was.
Oh, well, I couldn't handle it. Like, we threw it away, and like I threw away some expensive vodka. Like, it was that bad. Okay, so anyway, so we went with this. This is another Nicole Gordon Hanks contribution. So, which is funny because I don't even think she drinks, but she gives me lots of good drink ideas. So that's awesome. So anyway, you take your shot, and it smells delicious. You're gonna put some ice in your mixer glass here.
Is that a Reds Festival glass?
What? Yeah, it's Texas Reds.
Nice.
Yeah, we're fans. That's actually from like the first Texas Reds.
That one's from 2 years ago. I have it.
I think that's
Point.
Point. Point.
No.
Nah. All right. So you're gonna add a couple of ounces of your shrub here. It's nice and thick. Those fresh blueberries and raspberries. They are delicious. Okay. Then you're going to need 1.5 ounces of your bourbon. Once again, working on finishing up my little handle here of Maker's Mark. Gonna have to replenish soon. Okay, so you put that in your shaker, and you take it. Okay.
Hey,
Then
daily workout.
we're gonna put some fresh ice in our glass because we are gonna strain. I know Adrian is always like, why strain out the ice and then put it in more ice? I don't know, Adrian. This is just what they tell me to do.
One time, Rodney, one time.
I don't know. I just don't know. And you pour it into your glass.
Fancy pour.
And then you top it with ginger ale. And I don't have it because it's in the refrigerator. So, dang it. I had almost everything ready. I blame my rehearsal tonight. So I'm going to let y'all go to the next segment while I get some ginger ale, and then I'll be right back. Roger Pine doesn't need me. I'll be right back.
That's
Honestly,
crazy.
isn't that why you have kids, so that they can go get your mixers for you? Where'd Josie
That's what
go?
I'm thinking.
That's
Okay.
true.
I can make another announcement real quick. It's official. We have audio-only podcasts on several platforms. The post was made earlier this week. We are on Spotify, Stitcher, and Intune, which is the Amazon Alexa app. And all you got to do is go to those different formats and type in TTC space Diva space Dads, and you will find us. We've got the first 2 episodes and last week's episode already posted. And we'll be continuing to upload as we are moving along episode to episode.
Yay. How does it
Yay.
taste, Rodney?
Dude, that's really freaking good. I didn't get to try it, but yeah, that's good. I like it a lot.
Should never, no pickles ever. I feel like I hope you've learned your lesson.
No pickle, but the interesting thing is this does have red wine vinegar in it. So my first inclination was like, it's almost pickled. But I know what's going to happen to me. I'll be pickled.
Oh, Lord.
No,
Goodness gracious.
no dad jokes. We had a deal.
Oh, sorry.
All right, Ryan.
Alrighty. Alrighty, on that note, folks, it is time for this week's Roger Pine Breakdown, our correspondent on the street. Tonight, he is breaking down the musical Carousel. Roll the tape.
Eventually.
It's a lot of work on this side sometimes, guys. Here we go.
Carousel. I've seen Carousel. I saw it at the theater company, and it was a highly requested show. And plot summary, there's some abuse. There's like an abusive relationship, and then this is not a joke. The main character has it's like a 12-minute song, and this is a spoiler, but he dies, and maybe from exhaustion. I don't know, but you don't feel that bad for him, again because of the domestic abuse, but also because if you can't get your point across after like 8 minutes of singing, maybe it's time to just pack it in. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's all in the first act. I think some stuff happens in the second act too, but those are the highlights that I remember from Carousel.
He nailed it. It's a terrible show that happens to host like one or two very beautiful and memorable Rodgers and Hammerstein songs, but as a whole, awful show. And I know James Cho can like feel me talking about this right now because he loved it so much, and he was wonderful. He was wonderful in it. But that show, gross. Nope. Hard pass. No, thank you. Roger mentioned the abuse. There's actually a line in the show because he actually slaps his own daughter. He slaps his own daughter, and later on, she asked her mother, "Is it possible to love someone so much that when they hit you, it doesn't hurt?" You want to know what the mom says? She says yes. So that's a hard pass from me. It's a big joke at the theater. But yeah, James loves it. Cool. Wow. Oh, and that was probably really harsh. He doesn't love it for that reason. He does understand that there's a lot of problematic material in it. He just has a soft spot in his heart for that show. And so going right into our guest, I'm pretty sure she would agree with me, so we can start with that. But we are now introducing one of my best friends, Michelle Campbell-Greene.
Yay!
Yay!
Hello, Michelle.
Hi, Michelle. Real quick, two things. Tell us a little bit about yourself, but also tell us what you think of the musical Carousel.
Well, first of all, Carousel's trash.
Yay!
It's terrible. And hello, I'm Michelle. I am super excited to be here today. I started with theater company in 2002 when I was a junior in high school. I was Sally Brown in You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, which was a dream role at the time, still is. And I've been a theater kid since junior high and majored in theater in college. Ended up interning in New York for the publicity office, which was a theatrical press agency. So publicists, but they represent a musical instead of a person. And I got to work intern on some really cool shows like Wicked and 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, on Golden Pond, starring James Earl Jones, just to drop a name. And I never met him, but I did get to him. And some other smaller theaters as well. And then I ended up moving back home through a crazy story where the very short version is I got hit by a drunk driver and ended up messing up my knee pretty badly and moved home. And while I was down here, I ended up getting a job as a technical theater director at A&M Consolidated, and then kind of started my career as theater education. So this will be my 14th year as a teacher. So.
Yay.
Wow.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Well.
I'm really excited to see your face. And we have Cameron Mosier to thank for having you here. Yes. One of our favorite people. Well, we're going to get right into it. Rodney.
Yeah, I got the first question. Our first question comes from Carrie Kemp, and she wants to know how you are celebrating Pride Month in quarantine.
Oh, okay. So not a lot. Deborah and I say we're really bad gays because we don't. Here, Deborah's here. This is my wife, Deborah.
Deborah, hi.
Hi, Deborah.
We're not like go out. We're homebodies. We're like very stereotypical in that way, if you will. And so we stay home a lot. But I do love a good rainbow theme. So I ride horses, and I brought a whole bunch of rainbow stuff up to the barn to celebrate Pride. So I decked my horse out in rainbow things to celebrate Pride. So
Nice.
Also, I will point out, we also do try and like donate to different organizations and kind of stay up to date on what's going on. So we don't shut the world out. We just like to stay at home.
Can confirm that she does like to stay at home. And one of the reasons I know that is because we actually used to be neighbors in addition to being theater friends forever. But one of the last times I left my home pre-quarantine was to go to see a live podcast in Dallas with Carrie and Taylor. And we stayed at Michelle's house, and we didn't really feel like going out afterwards. So we thought, oh, we'll just go home with Michelle and Deborah, have a nice quiet glass of wine. And Taylor went to sleep on the couch while Carrie and Deborah and Michelle and I, pretty sure we drank until about 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oof.
It's an easy night at the house.
In hindsight, do not recommend.
But it was a great way to kick off quarantine.
Yeah.
Last Big Bang. It was great. Thanks for the hospitality.
Always.
So, Mr. Alan Bryant, photographer extraordinary,
Yes.
wants to know how long has it been since somebody called you Sally? I mean, Michelle.
See, when was the last time I saw Alan? Because that would be the last time someone called me Sally. Michelle. Alan called me that because I played Sally Brown in You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, and that's just how he referred to me ever since I was 16. So we're going on like over half of my life. That's what he calls me.
Oh my goodness.
Love consistency.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're switching over. I want to talk about Deborah, your beautiful wife, who Cameron knew that this wasn't something she would be like super excited about as far as being interviewed, but we knew she would make an appearance. But Kelsey Coleman specifically is asking about Deborah. She wants to hear the Deborah Michelle Campbell-Greene love story. Who flirted first? Did you have a first date? What were your first impressions of each other? And then from a personal note, you guys kind of got married twice.
Yeah.
You can tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. I'm going to talk about it.
She'll peek in.
She'll pop in. Yeah, so Deborah and I actually met. I was assistant teen costumey, sort of, for Sweet Charity. I had just moved back home from New York and was looking for a way to not be at my house all the time. So of course I went to theater company, and I was in charge of doing the costumes for, what was that called? Hey, Big Spender. That one. What was this one? And I was in charge of like getting those costumes together. And this was pre-super organized yellow theater. So it was when.
Wait, what? There's a less organized yellow theater out there?
Rodney, I keep telling this to Dana and Rodney. Y'all have no idea how good you had it when you started.
Yeah. You would walk in, and I can't even, like, it's like volcanoes of clothes just everywhere.
I can see that.
So you would just like kind of reach into a pile and like pull something out, and then you would like this.
Michelle, do you remember the maze that you had to get through when you walked into the yellow to go to the left side of the costumes? You had to like separate a stack of costumes,
and
duck
then, like,
under,
yeah,
go through something in order to access like the wedding dresses and the fur coats, and it was a literal maze you had to get through.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was what I was pulling costumes from. And I don't remember anything. Deborah remembers this more vividly, but whatever I put her in initially was not good. And
so I didn't look great, but I haven't done that much community theater. I was like, I must look okay from stage if they're okay putting me up with this. Like, I think I look kind of bad, but I'm sure it's fine. And then Michelle, we've just run Big Spender. I walk off stage and Michelle just goes, "You look awful." I'm gonna fix you.
That was our first interaction. I told her she looked awful, but then I fixed it. I feel like you looked pretty good by the end.
I looked really great.
And then we were in Millie. Yeah, and then we were in Millie together, and that was a really girl-heavy show. And that was when the dressing room. Well, I mean, the dressing I think are still the same. Are they not, Adrian?
Yeah, they just
yes. That's
before. Like,
just been.
was like right after John Hall had built the 2 dressing rooms that we have now.
Yeah, okay. But it was super crowded because that dressing room when you have like a majority girl cast. So Deborah and I just hung out in the green room a whole lot and we got to know each other. And in true Hufflepuff fashion, Deborah had no idea I was flirting with her, had no idea I was interested, not a clue. So there was quite a long courtship, one-sided on my side. And
which, just to say from my side, I was like, oh, this really cool woman wants to hang out with me. And every time we'd hang out, I'd be like, I don't know, I'm kind of weird and awkward. She probably doesn't want to hang out with me anymore. And then she'd call and she'd want to hang out some more. And I'd be like, this is great. This wonderful person wants to hang out.
yeah.
She's so funny and she's so cool.
So, yes. And our first date was actually on Halloween, not planned. We were just like, we need to put this in writing, so to speak. So we're going to have our official first date. What are you doing next Wednesday? And the Wednesday was Halloween. And we didn't know that at the time. And so we started dating on Halloween. We got engaged about a year later. We got married 2 years after that. And then we got legally married in 2014. So we do have 2 wedding anniversaries. So
I love that.
yeah.
I got to go to one of them and it was pretty great.
Yeah. Our real wedding, as we call it, was in Bryan at the Aston Mansion. So
Oh, wow. Cool.
It was the best.
it was the best.
It was a great party. I have a little bit more from Kelsey.
Okay.
So Kelsey is a former student of yours, and she wants to know what it's like being a teacher, and then what is the transition like as you become a teacher to your former students, but then you're a friend. Specifically, Kelsey, you were her teacher for a really long time, but then you guys are friends. You came back and later directed her as an adult, as a strip club owner in Rock of Ages. So yeah, she wants to know how that is, making that weird transition.
It's definitely awkward. I will not pretend that it's not. Thankfully, Kelsey's an adult and like a very like cool lady. So by the time I came back to direct Rock of Ages, she was very much like, I don't even know how old Kelsey is. She's like 25, right?
She's still like 22 to me. I know that's not.
Yeah. Sorry, Kelsey, if I like said your name, your age was wrong. But like and also I was like gone and then I came back. So like there was definitely a disconnect. So I was able to talk to her more as just like, you're this other person that I'm directing. But it is definitely tricksy. But it's just something like I try and be as professional as possible. And like, I expect my students to behave on a professional level when they're in high school. So when they do community theater, they're able to do that transition really easily without having to feel like they're less than or that they're not prepared. So I feel like, I mean, it's a weird experience, but as long as you go from a really professional angle, like, I don't think there's anything.
I have a little bit of a follow-up to that.
Yeah.
What was your experience, or how did you feel when you saw these people like Kelsey that you kind of brought up now in the community theater, and they are so incredible on the stage? Like what is it? Is it pride? Is it accomplishment? Like what are the things you feel whenever you first noticed that or saw that?
Yeah, pride I think would be the most, like, yeah, there's pride. I cry, I'm a crier, so like I cry a lot to process my feelings. I do remember like the first time I ever,
Huh? Or were they? All 3 of them.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
The first time I heard Taylor Christensen sing, like I had heard her like goof around, but she was always, you know, when she was my student, she was always a technical theater. She was a stage manager or costumes. So I had never seen her like sing. And I mean, I just remember like being like, you know, which is appropriate for Taylor because she cries all the time too. So but yeah, pride, like watching Kelsey turn into such a brilliant comedic actress. I mean, she always was a brilliant comedic actress, but watching her grow up and watching her voice mature, you really just like being able to experience that and see that growth is something that I think is really special to theater teachers.
That's
so
cool.
Kelsey, I think, is the answer, one of the answers to this question, but she wants to know if there were any other students other than Kelsey who have made a lasting impact on you.
Oh, well, yes, Kelsey, of course. She's definitely fantastic. A lot of the TTC, Taylor, I guess they're the really two big ones. Beth Aiken I never had as a student, but my friend Chris Rogers taught, so I knew her as a student. She just wasn't my student. And then there's a few out in the world now that are doing work that are like just super special. I got to fly up to New York last summer and see Taylor Byers' one woman show, which was like, I just cried the whole time because just watching her grow as not only just a performer, but an activist and someone who's found her voice to speak like for others and herself is just really exceptional. Maggie Ellison is working in Houston. So anytime I get to go see a former student's working professionally is really fantastic. And it's not even just them being performers, just watching them succeed in life. I don't want to spend forever talking about theater teaching, but like the one thing I will say is my job as a theater teacher, I want students to walk away understanding what empathy is and understanding how to see other people and what going a mile in someone else's shoes is going to feel like, because I think that's the most important thing. And it's what we need as a society, is to be able to understand each other. So watching students do that through theater, through film, through going to law school, through going to med school, going to just go be teachers themselves. Like, I mean, just being able to see like those little lessons flourish is something that I hold really dear to my heart.
I want to go back to Maggie for a second. Guys, I don't know if you remember the story we talked about a few weeks ago of Spam-A-Lot, where I broke my foot and was out like one day into Tech Week. Maggie Ellison's Michelle's student. She was the incredible young woman who learned the entire show via YouTube videos and was in and a superstar by opening night. She's incredible.
Backwards. She learned them backwards because all the videos were front facing.
From the front.
All the choreography backwards.
Yeah, she's just a little impressive.
Yeah.
Okay, but speaking of impressive, Kelsey did have one more question about your lovely wife. She wants to know, Deborah, hi. Have you always been naturally flexible, or did you have to work and train for it? And are there any tips that you have for being more flexible or a stronger dancer? Because we've seen you do a lot at the theater company, including Rock of Ages. You did a lot on that pole. Can you tell us about that?
Maybe change lives. It's cool.
You changed Marcus Villanueva's life for sure.
For sure, 100%. Yeah. So I do have advice, mainly because I am not at all naturally flexible. But I know, none of it came naturally. But I started out in gymnastics at 4 years old and discovered very early that all of these little girls could just like reach over and touch their toes. And I was like, how are they doing this? Are their bodies broken? Like, what's going on? But so thankfully I had like coaches who were able to, show me what stretches are supposed to look like and what body position you're supposed to be in to do things safely. And then from there, I just took off, where I just started stretching at every possible moment. So the big advice is learn how to do things safely. So ask people who you know how to get in the stretch the right way. Don't just go stretch if you know nothing about it. There are also great YouTube videos if you want to Google around. And then just stretch at every spare moment. If you're watching TV, if you're talking to your friends, Adrian can testify that this is what I'm doing. At all times, stretch. So even if you are not naturally flexible, if you do it every day for just a whole lot of time, you can be flexible too. It's maybe not the best thing here. A lot of work and a lot of time, but you can do it also.
You do get used to having conversations with Deborah when she's just like spread out across the floor. In fact, I'm pretty sure I have a picture from one of the times we went to New York together, and you were drying your hair in like a full middle split on the ground, and I put it on Instagram, and my mom thought you were broken. Like, she really thought something was severely wrong. No, she was just drying her hair in the splits.
That was when we saw the Spelling Bee reunion show. That was when that was.
Which Roger talked about the fact that it didn't take much convincing to twist his arm to get him to take his whole family to New York.
We were like, hey, you should do this. And he was like, okay.
Okay, real quick sidebar before I think Mike is next. So Deborah, Cameron knew this, and I feel like I knew this, that you would not be interested in being like a guest on this show. Tell me why.
as soon as questions are directed my way about me, suddenly my vocabulary becomes monosyllabic. My IQ just drops all the way down, and I forget who I am and what's happening in the world. I don't know. I don't handle it well.
You say that, but you also just use the word monosyllabic in your explanation.
Probably because she thought about this answer.
That's a fair
to
point.
be 100%.
It's because I've given this answer many times to people who are like, wait, don't you want to get interviewed for this thing? No. And I work in a middle school, and like students will come to interview me for projects, and I'm like, no, thank you. Love you.
Perfect. Okay, sorry, Mike.
No, all good.
Hi, Deborah.
All right.
She's gonna go stretch.
I'll keep popping in.
She'll be popping back.
All right. I'll change directions just a little bit. Michelle, this question is from Taylor Christensen. What was it like coming back to direct after Randy's passing?
Oof.
Thanks, Taylor, for the.
Thanks, Taylor.
Yeah.
I will say coming back to direct was a little easier than walking into the theater the first time after he had passed. And I was thankful that we were able to come back and see a lot of shows. And we were able to come back for the wake. So being there for that, I think helped buffer that sadness a little bit. But I will say auditions were the hardest part because I did not know where I should sit.
Oof.
Because I knew where I should sit to see the best view and to be able to see everything, but like that's Randy's seat. I'm not sitting there. And then I wanted to sit in the front because that's also a great place. But I was like, oh no, that's also where Randy used to sit. And I'm like, I didn't know where to, so that was like an awkward dance of like what seat. So I think I took a row back, if I'm correct. But yeah, and then the longer I was there, the easier. I mean, I guess it's just that saying about time. But there are definitely times when we were up there programming. Chris had a little spooky experience. Yeah, we'll have to ask Chris the details, but Randy definitely messed with him while we were programming Lights for Rocket Ranges. So, but yeah.
That sounds about right.
Yes.
That's perfect.
He's got a good story.
Okay.
But I don't remember the details because I wasn't there.
But he's coming for Dads After Dark, yes?
I'll make sure, yeah.
Brilliant. Well, even if he doesn't come for Dads After Dark, Chris Rogers, if anyone doesn't know, is set to direct The Wedding Singer eventually. We will not see him as soon as we would like, but we will see him eventually. Yeah.
All right, so the next question is from Catherine Morgan, and she wants to know what your favorite show was to perform and what your favorite show is to direct.
I think hands down my favorite show to perform was Spelling Bee. I could do Spelling Bee every day of the week for the rest of my life and be a happy human. It was a really special show with that cast though. Like it would have to be that cast. That was just a really special group of people. My favorite show to direct, I don't know if I have an all-around favorite show because everything has different moments that I really love. So every show has something in it that I absolutely adored from a director standpoint. My favorite show to direct with adults in it was Rock of Ages because it's one of the only ones. And that was also, I will say Rock of Ages is one of the only shows that I've worked on that I can hear a song from it today. I could hear a song from it a week after we closed and not want to skip the song, which
that means a lot.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes you're like, oh no, thank you. But yeah, I think I saw this question I was trying to think about. I think Thoroughly Modern Millie at Consol, which Adrian choreographed, starring Alexis Cepeda and the Taylor Beyer and Maggie Ellison was in it, the two we mentioned earlier, and a whole bunch of amazing other people who I don't know, and Taylor stage managed it. You can ask Taylor about the curtain episode if you really want, but I don't really want to go there. But yeah.
That show was special. Those girls were that was not a normal high school show.
No,
Right.
and nobody knew how to tap except for like 3 people. And Maggie was dance captain for that show, and she led them through tap boot camp over like a 6-week period. And those girls were flawless by the time the show opened. So
Yeah.
it was a really, really cool group.
No,
So.
that was insane. That was amazing. All right, Dana, I know you're mid-chug.
So our favorite dad joke extraordinaire, David Manuel, has a question that's any interesting stories from interacting with Broadway performers, whether that's New York, Stanley Wayne Mathis here or elsewhere?
So Stanley is like literally God's gift to this earth. He is a really
who Stanley Wayne Mathis is.
Oh yeah. So sorry. Yeah. Stanley Wayne Mathis has an insanely long Broadway resume. Jelly's Last Jam. He was the original Schroeder in the revival of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. He's the guy that sings Too Darn Hot and Kiss Me Kate. If you've seen that Tony performance, that's him. He was in Nice Work If You Can Get It. He toured with the Book of Mormon recently. And he came down to direct You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown at Troupe, and I was really fortunate enough to be his assistant director. And it was really great. I don't have any like stories other than like he's a brilliant man, and he's a baker, and he makes really good. I can't eat gluten anymore, but I would just to eat one of those cakes again. Like they were really good. And then when I interned in New York, I was the intern, so like I was not allowed to talk to the talent. Like that was not something like 21-year-old me was allowed to do. But I will say, one of my favorite memories from working up there was the opening night of Spelling Bee on Broadway. Part of the press agency's job is to run the opening night party, and you pull all the reviews the next day and you're arranging all the press, which is what the reviews are. So I got to assist with the opening night party, and that was really cool because it was a lot of their Broadway debuts. So a lot of that cast had never been on Broadway before. So my favorite memory, my job was to work the photo line. So I had to like hold stuff for people while they got their photos taken. But watching them take photos of each other on like really old phones, right? So we're not like flip phones, like these aren't iPhones, and like, or like actual like cameras, taking photos of them getting their photos taken, or like their parents all came and took photos of them doing the press line and stuff like that. And just being able to see that like theater magic, it doesn't matter if you're on Broadway or at a community theater or doing, educational theater, like it's, you're always going to have people cheering for you. And that was just like a really cool experience.
You have one celebrity encounter that has nothing to do with Broadway, but it's important to me.
Okay.
Who was the celebrity that lived in your building that you did run into in the elevator or at the mailbox?
It was Chris Noth, but I don't know if he lived in my building or if he just lived in the building next to mine. I never saw him in the elevator. I saw him we crossed paths going entrance exits.
Perfect. That's all I need. Just like a little bit.
Yeah.
Y'all.
We weren't friends. I never said hello to him. I just was like,
missed opportunity is all I'm saying. Does this mean anything to you guys?
Frenemies. He was on Sex and the City, right?
Yes, it's Mr. Big himself. All right, Mike.
Oh my goodness. How did this question get in here? Oh my goodness. Well, Michelle, I met you at Rock of Ages in 2018. It's the first time I got the chance to meet you. Yeah. And so I think the obvious question needs to be asked. At what point did you think Stacey Jacks and Mike Kilgore were a match made in heaven?
Well, Mike, if I'm going to be completely honest with you, you were just the only one there. So I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I thought you were fantastic. I really love. I'll toot your horn for a minute, if you will.
I put enough on his own.
Huh? Yeah, I know.
He does it enough on his own.
I really enjoyed, if I remember from your audition, just how completely like you just went with it. Like Randy always said, make big mistakes, because sometimes like you end up with really great ideas from that. And you went there, like you were really willing to you just went all in. So
Sweet.
I don't know how to answer that question.
Asking for a friend, of course, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure. Just tell Stacy that you can call me sometime.
No, call your wife that was that was dancing on him.
Yeah.
No, Mike, you were pretty iconic, I do have to say.
Yeah, that audition was pretty great.
Yeah, that whole performance, we've never seen you like that before. And now it's hard to not always see you as Stacey Jacks. I have a question for me, and it's something that I think we've talked about a little bit before. So you are someone who directs occasionally adults, but you also are the head of your theater department. You've been teaching high school for a long time. And a conversation that we've all been having a little bit in various parts of our lives is just the concept of diversity and how it affects you in all areas of your life. So specifically as a theater director, how do you factor in diversity? Is there diversity in your department? And from me specifically, how do you factor that into choosing a season or selecting a show for your kids to do?
Yeah, I'm super blessed. My school is a really diverse school. So I'm really thankful for that. So that really gives us a lot of chances to do some really cool stuff. When I'm picking a season, I really hate the term colorblind casting. I think that's really silly. So I really like the idea of color conscious casting. So you are acknowledging where people are coming from and heritage and culture, and making sure that you're celebrating that. That being said, I don't pick a show based on the students that I have. I pick a show based on where I want my students to go, and how I want them to grow. So for example, 2 years ago, we did The Trojan Women, which is a Greek tragedy. It's very sad. And I didn't pick it because, we've got a really great, ethnically diverse group, and this will be wonderful. I picked it because I really wanted my students to understand Greek tragedy and how that factors into where we are today in modern theater, and the kind of parts of Greek tragedy that we were able to pick apart and kind of bring to the forefront in modern society. So I guess, I don't know if that's a complete answer, but I just know it's something that I'm conscious about, but I will never be like, oh, well, we should really do Aida because we have one strong Black female. Like that would be a disservice to that student, the department, and in a way like a disservice to the growth of everybody. I don't know if that makes sense.
So do you think that, like, are you going to make any different choices based on like the current climate? Like, do you think that what's happening now is going to factor into what you're choosing next year?
Yeah, we've definitely talked about it. I think it's really important to make sure that we're doing right by the students. So like, but going back to Aida, like you shouldn't do Aida if you only have one Black student. Like that's not okay. Right. So that's what I meant by like, oh, if we have like one Black student, we should do Aida. Like I would never be like, oh, like that's good. So I don't know. Yeah, our season this year, I know are we going to have a season this year? I don't know. But as planned, we're doing Hamlet. So we're getting some Shakespeare in there. My coworker's directing that. I'm directing 12 Angry Jurors because I feel like it's very appropriate for where we are. And kind of the themes in that show are super relevant today. And then hopefully our musical is Drowsy Chaperone. But I also need to have a conversation with MTI and see if there's a high school edition, because some of it now is a little dated. So I'm a little worried about some of the stuff in there. And if I go through it and they say you can't edit it, then like, that needs to be a conversation to have with MTI.
Yeah, that's super important for theater teachers and for directors everywhere to recognize that sometimes classic musicals, some of that dated material might be relevant, but sometimes it's just no longer necessary to pay homage to that dated material. And so either edit it and be gone, or maybe you don't do that show anymore. I mean, South Pacific is a good example. Honestly, Thoroughly Modern Millie, and you and I have talked about that show. And
they rewrote
yes,
Millie.
Yes, but the previous version, was a little edgy.
Oh gosh, and like how embarrassing. I mean, I played Mrs. Mears, and like, yeah. I mean,
very well, very, very well.
But like I think that's a great experience at the time. Like I was like, oh, this is so funny. But like looking back, I mean, like I've learned so much, and I'm just like, oh, like Mrs. Mears shouldn't be a character. Like they should rewrite that, and they did. They rewrote the character.
But like you said, learn so much, and that's all you do. Like we look back and we've learned and evolved from things that we've done before. You brought up Aida, and that show that musical has come up in Diva Dads before as like, yes, we did have a Black Aida, but that does not mean we should have done the show. And thank goodness we had her, because we probably would have done it anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, making sure you're celebrating your cast, but also being really conscious of what that means.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right, Dana.
Wait, since Dana's lost, can I, I want to interject because I'm also, I also teach, I don't teach theater, but I also teach. And Adrian and I were talking the other day about this very topic. And I was like, I've never heard of the theater doing like a casting call, like saying we're specifically looking for these types, or whatever. And so doing it in a educational setting, would you do would you try and encourage students to come in and audition for the show, even if they're not a drama, not drama, like go and steal some from the choir, or go steal some.
100%. I steal them all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, especially boys. I will take like, oh, you sort of sing in choir, you should come audition for the musical. So yes, definitely. I really encourage, I do an all school musical, so you don't have to be in theater to do the musical, because I think it's really important, and you never know, who that kid, it sounds really corny, but it's like the Troy Bolton story, from like High School Musical. But like it is, you have kids that were like, oh, well, I did it because my friend was auditioning and I wanted to like spend more time. Hello, this is Henry.
Everybody drink.
Kitty time. Which one is that one? Is that Henry?
That's Henry.
Where you are.
Oh yeah, I'm at my parents' house. So hello from College Station. Which most of the people watching this will probably be from College Station. But hello. We surprised.
Say hi.
Huh?
Are they gonna pop in and say hi?
I'm sure that will happen. Yeah. It may not be it may be after dark. So
perfect.
We're still downstairs. But I surprised my dad for Father's Day, so we drove down.
Dana, did you find yourself?
Yes, I was in thought about a follow-up question, and I think I'll save it for Dads After Dark. But please remind me to circle back to what we were just talking about.
Take it down in my notes.
Yep.
Yeah, I see you typing away. Yeah, so Beth Aiken, who we mentioned earlier, she wants to know about your dream role. What would your dream role be? Or has already occurred?
Yeah, so I have been fortunate to have like a bajillion dream roles at theater company, which I feel like I was listening to Cameron's interview prepping, right? So I knew what was going on. And he talked about, this is a sidebar, but I feel like I'm allowed to sidebar, right? Your lovely mother asked if he ever auditioned for a role that he didn't get. And he went on a big thing, and I thought it was really funny because he got the Baker, and he did not want the Baker, and I auditioned for Into the Woods for Little Red. I wanted Little Red so hardcore, like I was like gunning for it.
I remember your audition was like, Little Red, pick me.
I sang a song called My Party Dress, and it's from the point of view of a 5-year-old at a party. Like, I mean, I literally was like, hello, look at me, I am short. You should, and I have red hair, and you should cast me as Little Red, please, thank you. And we got to callbacks, and Becky Braden just like knocked it out of the park. She was brilliant. And I was like, cool, okay. I guess that's that. And then I ended up as the baker's wife, which was like, it was the first lead I've ever had. I know my type. I'm not the leading lady. Like, I am the very funny sidekick, and I am very good at being the very funny sidekick. Like, I will claim that. So getting the baker's wife was really scary for me because I had never had to be vulnerable on stage. I never had to kiss anybody on stage. I never had to have any sort of emotional arc on stage. Like, I showed up, I sang a funny song, I did a little bit, and I left most of the time, which was great. And the baker's wife was really challenging for me. So I thought it was really funny that Cameron like 100% didn't want the baker, and then we both ended up in those parts. But yeah, a dream role was definitely Rona Lisa Peretti from Spelling Bee. Was just like, because I had such a connection to it from Broadway, being able to do it was like really special. And then a dream role that I haven't done yet, I would kill to play Mrs. Lovett in Sweeney Todd.
So you and Cameron just battling it out. I still can't get the image of Prince Herbert as Mrs. Lovett out of my head. Like, I need that.
Yeah.
Really bad.
Yeah. I mean, he's like a very like frail thing. I could
If you're saying you could take him out.
I'd hire Deborah. Pew pew.
Oh my gosh.
I'm pretty sure he would just like keel over. Like, he would be the fainting goat that's just like, no. And then
like make a TikTok of that now.
Oh yes, we were talking about the lack of up-to-date content from the Diva Dads on TikTok, and myself. I have like a baby shark video and like a cute thing of my nephew, but Michelle Campbell-Greene is a pretty good on TikTok.
Yeah, I only have like 4 videos, so, but you can follow me at the Rusty Stirrup, so feel free. I also
There's a great one with their horse from like a couple days ago that I love.
Yeah, it's all horses.
Oh my gosh. We're about to take it sideways again.
Okay, go.
All right. This question also is from Beth. Have you ever been discriminated against for your sexuality, especially in a professional environment? And if so, how did you handle it?
That's a good question, Beth. I don't think so. I don't think I have to my face. I feel like I'm a pretty loud person when it comes to stuff like that. I'm a very proud person when it comes to stuff like that. So I feel like if someone's going to say something to my face, they would expect a response. So maybe, but not like, I don't know, not to my face. What I have experienced, and I'm sure Beth has too, because Beth is in the same role that I was in for a while as a technical director. I experienced a lot of discrimination because of my gender. So not so much that I'm gay, but that I was a lady in Lowe's buying like $900 worth of wood and nails and supplies, trying to, buy everything we needed for a season, and like definitely getting a lot of like, hey, little lady. I know once I built a deck when Adrian and I were duplex mates, I built a deck for us. And I went to Lowe's and I was like buying these like, the concrete blocks that you like level and put in to put your deck together. I was buying like 16 of them for our deck. And I'm like literally like hauling them, and like when this like dude strolls up, I'm like, hey, what you doing? And I was like, I'm just getting this stuff. And he's like, well, do you know what you're doing? And I was like, yeah. Just back at it. And then he was like, well, did your husband send you? Oh. And I was like, no, I'm building a deck for my wife. But if you want to help me move this, I'm fine with that. And he was like, well, what do you build? And then like grilled me. I mean, I was like for 10 minutes about what I was building and how I was building it. And was that the best choice? And finally I was like, it's fine. Thank you. And I left. But I would say that's what I get more of. So.
How often are you mistaken for a student at your school?
Thankfully, like opening a new high school has really put some wrinkles on my face and my hair's a little grayer. So I don't get mistaken as much for a student as I used to. I did bangs for a year and that was a really bad choice because everyone thought I was 12. I'll never do bangs again.
Good advice. Good advice.
All right, our special correspondent Shannon Van Zant wants to know, what is the best thing about teaching high school theater?
Oh, I don't know. There's a lot of it. I really love being able to watch students grow as humans and also as performers. Because a lot of times I work, all sides of the theater, so I get to see technical theater students as well. So watching someone who wasn't comfortable working with a table saw, suddenly, 2 years later, they're showing someone else how to use the table saw. That's like a really great moment for me as a teacher, knowing that like they've and have this confidence now that they used to not. It's a lot of little moments. I don't think there's one big thing that makes it great. It's a lot of little things.
So how do you identify and nurture talent?
You find what people like and you celebrate it. Aww. That is the number one thing. So if someone really likes breakdancing, you figure out a way to put it in your musical, even if it doesn't make sense in your musical. And then you make sure it works. Like, you don't just throw it in there because that's like a cohesive issue, but you find it. I'll like talk a little bit about, I love dance. I'm a failed dancer. I'm very bad at it.
That's not true.
I'm mostly bad at it.
No, not at all. And you also are an incredible tap dancer.
I'm a great tap dancer. But like the really pretty ballet stuff, and I'm not very good at. And because of that, I really envy people that can do it. So for a while, I had a whole bunch of girls that were able to go on point, and they were brilliant. They were brilliant, beautiful ballet dancers. And I worked point into every show. Every show. Cinderella, there's no ballet in that. But I was like, you know what? The entr'acte's boring. Let's make it a ballet. So we made it a ballet. And then that was a really cool thing where we were able to cultivate students' talents because those 4 girls choreographed the ballet themselves. So that wasn't something like Adrian helped choreograph that. And Adrian was like, you want me to what? And I was like, well, let's talk to them. And they were like, oh, on it. And they created this beautiful 2-minute on point Swan Lake style. I mean, it was gorgeous. And like being able to celebrate that for them, something that they didn't think they were going to be able to do in a musical. That's really important. That's the best way to cultivate talent to me. Is find what they're good at and celebrate it.
I miss getting to play with you and your high school students. I really miss you being here because that was always so much fun. One of my favorite things that we worked on together was, I don't remember if you directed or if Creole did, but when y'all did A Christmas Carol at Consol.
You directed. I TD'd that one.
And we did this, we had these ghosts do this. It was right at the height of dubstep, and I know that's very dated at this point, but there was these dubstep Christmas carols.
It was really cool. It was a really
cool. So there was this very like aggressive and creepy, like contemporary dancing with some incredible talented girls. And, I think that was all females. And we just incorporated this really interesting music and these just freakishly talented dancers out of nowhere. You guys had like black lights, so it was super creepy. That was so much fun. I miss doing that.
Yeah, that was fun. Adrian and I speak the same language, so it's like a really nice, fun fact. A caveat of me directing Rock of Ages was only if Adrian choreographed it. I said I wouldn't. I felt very special. I was like, well, I won't do it unless you do. So,
and it worked.
It worked. But like, I mean, for those of you that are watching, or you guys, I don't know if Mike was in Rock of Ages, but I don't know if the other 2 of y'all saw Rock of Ages. But the Oh Sherry moment, that's not in the Broadway musical. What we had staged was the love interest trying to find Sherry, and so it was like this whole like searching through a train station, and I just told Adrian, like, okay, so I have this idea and it's slow-mo and there's suitcases and the suitcases are blocking him. Like, David can't get to her because of the suitcases and it's in slow-mo. And Adrian was like, got it, okay, and created this like beautiful, I think that's like just really, that's like the poster child of how the two of us work together.
It's true. It's true. Like, we very much like this, good, you got it, and then we move on.
Yeah.
The oh Sherry, but that was really good. That was a really fun scene because it's like a really quick song, really short. There's not a lot to it. But I remember that always being a really special moment in the show. I remember specifically because with all the crazy like crossing with the suitcases, I would always have this moment with Jackie Kilgore where we would be face to face with our suitcases, like making direct eye contact for like 30 seconds, which is a long time. And then the sweet moment with like the heart around them kissing for the first time, like that was special. I did try to back out of Rock of Ages. Leading up to it, I was like, I would really like a break and I'm sure that we can find someone that's going to be great. And you said no.
Yeah.
This was conditional.
Yeah, it was conditional. I tried, fun fact, did you know I tried to quit Follies?
What? I don't think I know that.
I pulled a Randy on you. I stage managed Follies. So I was a stage manager for Follies, and then I was also in it, which is not a good idea.
No, it was, because this is a perfect example of I'm going to come on, do a little song and dance and make a lot of people laugh, and then I'm going to go leave. And that was hilarious.
I was just in Buddy's Blues. I don't even remember I wasn't Buddy Blah. That was Catherine Pope.
She was also brilliant. The two of you were hilarious.
I was like, hi, Buddy. I think that was mine. I had a frame. I like framed my face. But anyway, I was like during one act season, and I was just really overwhelmed. And being in the show and stage managing was a lot. And I just remember like trying to pull Randy aside like 2 weeks into rehearsal. And I was like, Randy, it's too much. And I just really think someone else could do it. And he just looked me dead in the face and said, no. And he walked away from me. There was no further conversation. Like, he was just like, no. And then left. And I was like,
good
okay.
job. Well, I'm glad that you didn't quit that show. That was beautiful.
Well, I was still going to stage manage it. I was just trying to back out of being in it. Like, but he said no. So I said, okay.
I'm glad you learned that lesson, because Rock of Ages was one of the best summer shows. It was just amazing.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
All right, so I've got one more question from Shannon Van Zant. She wants to know what you would say to someone interested in pursuing musical theater in college.
Ooh, she's good at this. Michelle has coached so many students through this process.
Start dance lessons yesterday. Start dance. If you want to major in musical theater, not I want to go to college for theater, that's a different story. But I want to major in musical theater, start dance classes tomorrow. Because having a foundation of dance will help you in the dance call. It'll help you in how you move on stage in your solos. It'll help you with everything. Your presence, your poise, how you present yourself. Getting a foundation of dance is the most important. And then the second thing would be start working now. If you're a junior, make a list of your colleges that you're really interested in. Make your 3 dream schools, make your 5 safety schools, and then your 5, okay, really safety schools. And do your research. Every college has a different requirement. So you've got to know, some schools only require a song and a monologue. Some require 2 monologues and 2 songs. Some require pre-screens, which is something where you have to send in a tape of you before you get invited to even go audition. So you have to get those in before the audition date. So doing your work. And if you're listening to this and you're like a TTC person and you want to go to college for musical theater, send me a Facebook message.
I was about to say, like, can you, like, you could, the people should pay you to coach them through college.
Oh, thanks.
The other, okay, I wanted to say 2 things. So one thing on that is the other thing that you need to do when prepping for college auditions is to save money.
Yes.
Because for all of these schools that you're applying for, it's a huge amount of money just to apply. And then when you make it past the certain phase where you're flying out to audition, you're flying all around the country. That stuff's not paid for. And so hopefully you have parents who are willing to help you, but save money. The other thing is, so Michelle is now available for coaching for college auditions. The other thing that she is available for coaching for is if you have a daughter who's interested in pageants.
Oh my God.
Michelle is
Cutie patootie.
She's the reason that this move is in almost every musical I choreograph. She has an affinity for really, like, I like bad reality TV, but she likes really bad reality TV.
Dance Moms, great. Toddlers and Tiaras, awesome. I'm currently binging 90 Day Fiance with Sarah, Emily Miller, and Stephanie Blanton, 2 TTC alums. None of us live in the same city, but we do Zoom calls once a week to watch the episodes together. So that's a little extended TTC family. But yeah, seriously, if someone wants to go to college for musical theater, send me a message.
Yeah,
what if you're like 45 and think you want to pick this up at this point in your life?
Hey, there are a lot of really good programs out there that are like 2-year conservatory style things that are great.
There's also a ton of actors and Broadway actors and film actors who did not find their way or get their break until their 40s, 50s, 60s. Like, it's never too late.
Yeah, if you look at all the roles on Broadway, not everyone on Broadway is a 21-year-old character, 22, blah, blah, blah. Like, look at that stupid musical Carousel. There's old people in that.
Sorry,
So
James,
Michelle,
but
so Michelle and Adrian, I'm hearing you say that there is still hope for us 3 dads on Broadway.
yes. Yes.
Sure.
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 All right, so moving along, Mr. Parker Greer, fan of the show, and we're certainly a fan of Mr. Parker Greer. What has been your biggest challenge as a director or actor?
I don't know. That's a good question, Parker Greer. As a director, I'll say one of the hardest things is scheduling. Like, it sounds like a really silly answer. Like, I'm sure there's like a very deep artistic, like, finding the moment when you must, I don't know, lead the masses. But scheduling is kind of like the most annoying thing as a director, and therefore the hardest. Figuring out what conflicts are and when you can't have rehearsal for this, when you can't have rehearsal for that.
Talk about Rock of Ages and your adjustment from scheduling for a high school group and then working with adults.
Yeah, so like 3 episodes, oh God, 3 rehearsals. And to Rock of Ages, we had a call. It was like early on. It was the Hills scene where they go to Hollywood Hills. I don't remember that song. They're on the Hollywood, and
Yes.
Captain Morgan like scooted across. It's my favorite. But it was that scene, and in the script, it's like an 8-page scene. So I blocked it in my schedule that I sent Adrian. I was like, oh, it's 8-page. There's a love thing going on here. Like, it's like a romantic song. Like, we're going to take the whole day on it. And I was working with David and Madeline, and we get it blocked. And I was like, cool, do we have questions? How are we feeling? We kind of talk about it. We like tweak a few things. We run it like twice. And I was like, awesome, what time is it? And Beth was like, well, it's 7:45. I was like, what? She was like, it's 7:45. So like, I was like, and then we were, I try not to waste people's time, which I don't think theater company does, but there are some theaters where they'll call everyone for every rehearsal. But I know, like, from my experience in educational theater, like, kids have so much going on these days that you can't expect them to be there every day. So I try really hard to make sure, oh, okay, you're only called on these days, so you can go to your job, or you can go to this club, or you can go do this athletics. So no one else was there. It was just David and Madeline. And I was like, oh, is there anything else we can work? And there was like one scene that was 1 page. And I was like, cool, now what time is it? And Beth was like, well, it's 8. And I was like, okay. And I just hadn't prepared how much faster adults are able to process things, pick things up, you don't have to talk through this is how I want you to enter. Like, it's just like a totally different, because they had already done all of this before. They had been on stage before. They understood stage left, stage right. And most of my students do. I'm not saying that they don't. If you're watching the students, you're all very talented. But there's like a level of newness to theater at that age that you just don't have in community theater. Well, I didn't experience in Rock of Ages. I'm sure if you do like Sound of Music, that's there. But I didn't. And it was crazy. And then I had to redo the entire rehearsal, the entire rehearsal schedule changed that night and everything got truncated. And that gave us more time for choreography, which was great. But it was something I had not expected, was how quickly how much faster adults work than students.
Even Mike.
I was about to say, man, we must drive Adrian crazy all the time.
I will say, I remember after Randy, you know, my head is filled with all these things that I now have to do. And I have a distinct memory of like, oh my God, I don't know how to make a schedule like he does. And breaking down in tears because I thought, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's a lot. The scheduling's the worst part of being a director.
And no one's honest about their conflicts.
No.
I got like a text message like while we've been talking about someone else's conflicts. So it's constant.
Parker has a follow-up question for you, and that is really simply, what are your hobbies outside of theater? Except we already know you like Dads After Dark. You've been there. What do you do outside of theater for fun?
Well, I don't know if you've noticed that I've mentioned it like 17 times, but I'm a weird horse girl, and I ride horses, and that is literally all I do. Theater is kind of an all-consuming thing, especially when you are teaching it, and yeah, so I ride horses as a way to balance my me time. So
so when you were here in College Station, you did teach theater, but you were also heavily involved at the theater company, of course. And I know the answer to this, but the dads might not, how much are you involved in community theater now that you're in McKinney or, you know, you're in North Texas? Do you do any community theater or is it just at school?
I just do it at school now. We did community theater for a few years, and it was a great experience, and the theaters we worked with did phenomenal shows. But I'm like old now, and I'm tired a lot. That's a bad answer. So I'll say we did a few shows up there because we wanted to find that community, because like all of my dearest friends, the friends that I make sure to see every time we're home, are theater company people. And Beth Creel, who's also a theater company person, but I know her because I worked with her. And so when we moved up to North Texas for this really amazing job experience that I had, we didn't know anyone. And I do mean like literally, we knew Becky Braden, who lived an hour away from us. Like that was who we knew. So we were like, oh, well, we'll do community theater, and that's how we're gonna make friends. We're gonna make friends doing it. And we did make friends, but their rehearsal schedule was different. And at the time I was getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to work, and they rehearsed until 10 o'clock at night. And I lived an hour away from the theater. So I wasn't going to bed. Deborah and I both weren't going to bed until midnight, 12:30, tech week. I mean, gosh, who knows? And then I was getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to work. And that just wasn't a conducive, healthy way to live your life. And now that I'm at a different school, my schedule's different. But we have our own hobbies. Deborah does aerial work. So she does aerial silks and hoop and pole, which you saw in Rock of Ages.
Yeah, we did.
And I ride horses. So it's nice to kind of have something that's separate.
That is nice. Sometimes, you know, over the past couple of weeks with kids camp where it ends at 4 and then, you know, we don't always have rehearsal in the evenings. It's weird to like be done with a day in the evening and like not have something to do. It's really weird and foreign, and I don't know if I like it.
Yeah, that's the whole COVID closure. I was in the middle of One Act. So like One Act, for those of you that don't know, is like our big state competition for theater, and it's all in. Like there's no playing around with One Act play. And and we were dead in the middle of it, and then everything came to a grinding halt. And like the first 2 days I was like, this is interesting, and then like day 4 I was like, hey guys, y'all want to like do a Zoom? Like, what are we doing? So yeah, having your evenings off is a weird feeling.
It's weird. I want to go back to part of Parker's question, because you talked about one of the hardest things as a director, but as an actor, because you've played all sorts of roles, and I think specifically at the theater, the range of roles you've had is ridiculous. What's probably the hardest thing that you can remember having to do at the theater?
The baker's wife was probably, I kind of touched on that a little bit, but the baker's wife was, I'm really great at being self-deprecating, and I'm really good at like bringing humor to around me, I guess, about me, whatever. And the baker's wife was a comedic role, but there was just so much vulnerability there that was a struggle. Having to sing pretty, right? Like a lot of my characters, Adrian's favorite, Shirley Markowitz, and the producers, like that, it's an affected voice. So I never had to show my true voice. I don't know if up until the baker's wife, I'm looking at Deborah because I'm like, did I? I don't know if I had a role at theater company up until baker's wife that I showed, because even Sally Brown, when like my first show there, is like, Sally's like really affected, and she like talks super nasally, she sings super nasally. So like the baker's wife was the first time I was like very much like, this is me, this is my voice, this is who I am, this is what I really sound like. And that's a really scary thing to like put that out there and not be able to hide behind a character.
Yeah. I'm wearing my flannel today in honor of Shirley Markowitz.
Yeah.
Her iconic role from the producers. This is where I'm wearing my flannel.
Keep it gay. Keep it gay.
I don't think any of the dads picked up on it, but I gave a little clue before we announced Michelle. And the clue was the hard hat emoji.
I didn't pick up on it. So
I know you had to text me. I'm sorry, Dana. You were trying to ask something.
Oh no, it's fine. I get run over by you all the time. So that's true. Yeah.
I'm all right with that.
So what?
I
have a question about the baker's wife. I love that show. When you were doing that character, was there a relatability to it that made it more difficult to perform because you had to be more you, or what? Like, I guess I want to get a little deeper on that, understanding as an actor trying to connect with characters versus connecting with characters that like are part of you.
Yeah, so I preach and try and walk what I talk, that acting is living truthfully under imaginary circumstances. I don't know if you've ever heard that before. So knowing that like the baker's wife, you know, how would I react if I was in her shoes and that goes all the way back to like empathy, right? But I think just the big thing was I just didn't have anything to hide behind. Like, I did it, and it was just me. If I had been Little Red, she's got a funny voice, she sings a funny song. It's sweet, it's poignant, but that's it. And then she's funny again. The last time you see the baker's wife, she's cheated on her husband. She's regretting it. She's going through this like whole catharsis about how much she loves her husband and how she regrets what she's done, but she's still going to hold it precious to her. And then she dies. Like, and there's no redeeming. Randy and I got in a whole thing about it. Not a whole thing, that makes it sound a lot worse than it was, but I did Facebook message Joanna Gleason to get her take on it, who was the original baker's wife, so I could bring it to Randy and be like, this is what Joanna Gleason says, because I was just so adamant that the audience had to like the baker's wife, because if not, her death doesn't mean anything. Like, if it's not, she got what was coming to her, right? And she does, like, that's part of the moral, but like you also have to have some kind of remorse for her, or her character arc doesn't mean anything. I don't know, Adrian, you got to play the baker's wife. Do you want to add?
Well, I was actually just thinking about the difference in the shows that we did, and the difference being, you know, you as an actress and me as an actress, but who your baker was versus my baker. So you were with Cameron, and you guys had this very like sweet, lovey-dovey friendship. And Paul and I are great friends, but we get on each other's nerves a lot. And I remember talking to Randy during our rehearsal process. You're laughing, Dana, but it's true. And I spent every day with him for the last 3 weeks at kids camp. So
That's
we
why
talk
I'm
about it
laughing.
all the time. Yeah, I'm not very nice to him most days. But I talked to Randy about it at some point because there was a hostility to our relationship on stage that never existed when it was you and Cameron. And that I found that really interesting, and it bothered me because in my mind I was like, what am I doing wrong? What's wrong? Why are we getting so angry at each other? Because do you remember the conversation that the baker and his wife have before he's going to take a certain number of steps off to go searching, and she says, I'm coming with you, and he yells at her to stay there? That conversation with you and Cameron was always like, no, I got it, you stay here. With Paul and I, we escalated that to like we were yelling at each other, and it was so hostile. But I don't know, it was so weird because in both of our versions, all the actions still made sense. The turmoil that she goes through when she does cheat with the prince. Okay, but this person is still important to me because we had this child together. It's really, that show, I think that's why I love that show so much, because it can be so different depending on the choices that you make. And I just think that's such a testament to Sondheim's writing, that it can be interpreted in so many ways. And one of the things that's what I really, really love about it. But you mentioned being vulnerable, and the baker's wife to me is one of the most vulnerable roles to play. And I don't know if this is how you connected to it, but me as a female, being vulnerable in a way where like you're this lowly person, and as a female, you are made to feel like a lowly person for most of your days. And in the show, you are reminded that you are a lowly person, but then a prince comes and looks at you. Mm-hmm. And there's this moment of like, oh, wait, me? You're looking at me? And it's very, that scene was always really, really difficult. And I had someone I, really cared about and trusted working with me, but that was really difficult to show through that vulnerability of not having the confidence in yourself to like understand that someone was actually looking at you.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's beautiful though.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, it's a beautiful show. And the baker's wife is probably, I think, is hands down the most complex character I've ever been fortunate enough to play. Yeah. It's really brilliant. And the whole show's brilliant. I think that's really interesting with you and Paul too, because I didn't know Cameron. It was our first show together. So I think a lot of our relationship also formed from us both wanting to really like each other. Because we both really liked each other as friends outside of it, but we also didn't know each other well enough to like get on each other's nerves because it was our first 8 weeks working together. And Cameron would like come over to our house and we'd like eat Jimmy John sandwiches and run our lines. And like, it was just really sweet. Like it was, and then we get to rehearsal and it was really sweet and he was really fun and I really liked him and it was like cute. And that was that, And so, I don't know, I related to the baker's wife in that because it was like, oh, she just like married someone she liked, like, okay. And then there's the prince,
That guy.
Yeah. Matt Krieger.
Oh, thank you.
Coming along, looking like a Tom Cruise lookalike.
I know he does.
And I don't know if you can find it, but I did watch your video and you like do little pop-ups. There's a great photo of Randy coaching me and Matt through
the
scene.
Yeah.
And if y'all look at it closely, I am terrified. Like the look on my face, I'm trying so hard because I'm pretty sure I knew Sarah was taking photos. So I was trying so hard to look pulled together. But I am like, the fear in my eyes is just like, okay, here we go.
I love that moment. Okay, so you just mentioned Randy coaching and this, but Randy would love getting on stage of like, even if you were getting something just fine, it's like, okay, I'll show you, especially in like inopportune moments. But there's another photo of Randy coaching you that always gets me right in the feels, and it's from Spelling Bee.
Oh, that one, yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, I can't I was trying to find photos to send you for the like promo thing, and I came across that. I was like, oh, I just like can't even do that to Adrian. I can't send her this photo. But it's one of my most treasured photos of the two of us.
It's really beautiful. We have a lot that I'm really glad, but you and I have like a ton of really great stage photos, like some that I didn't even remember, like, and like one of the ones from Into the Woods of you and I sitting down talking about, he's a very nice prince, and those were really great memories.
Yeah.
really great.
All right.
Yeah.
So I feel like you two are just.
Sorry,
we got it. All right, got it up.
We're
Michelle,
starting our own
thank
podcast.
you. I know, and I encourage it. It's great. We're all kinds of spinoffs, but we're gonna wrap up the interview portion. We thank you very much, Michelle Campbell-Greene, for being part of this episode, and please stick around because we've got a few more segments before we go to Dads After Dark, and we know that Dads After Dark opens up a lot of Pandora's box, so we're excited to see what will happen there. So, Adrian, what's our next segment?
Oh my gosh. I have a good one for you today. So the next segment is Dear Daddy. And Michelle, we would love your advice on this. This is a really good question and actually hits a lot. It hits very close to home because I literally had this conversation yesterday with Hannah Shadanian. But Dear Daddy, as a young, flirty, and thriving 30-year-old, that is not the part that hits home. How do I go on dates and also social distance? / what are good social distance date ideas?
Oh.
Asking us.
Okay, Deborah.
Except for it's 98 degrees.
Deborah's just like, you could sit at home.
Yeah.
I'm doing a whole lot of that.
Both love and read that book and then chat about it on Zoom, and you'll fall just head over heels in love for each other.
Start a little book club.
Join a book club.
I think you
So
could.
that's how
could
you
do
find
the
older.
whole, pick a spot by the lake in the shade type thing. It's outside. You can keep 6 feet apart. I don't even know if that's a thing anymore, but
It is.
I am old, so
Okay,
Wear
so
a mask. Wear a mask.
wearing
wear a
masks.
You can buy one from the theater company.
You
Yes,
can.
Nice plug.
can.
Mhm.
We
Thank
have the
you,
ones with the stretchy ear loops now. Okay, but here's my follow-up question for my friend, actually for a friend, and also for me. Okay, so you've talked about social distancing dates, but how do you find those people to then go on socially distant dates with?
Tinder.
The whole swipe
No,
thing
Tinder.
is not a good idea. I cannot think of one person that I know that was like, oh yeah, I met this wonderful person on Fire, Tinder, whatever the heck it's called.
I
Fire.
actually have a friend that just got engaged, so
Shelby Morgan, who was in our production of Carousel, I'm pretty sure she met her fiance on a dating app.
Oh, no way. All right. Well, again, I'm an old guy. I have no idea. I got nothing. All my ideas are like, listening to the bop music in the 50s on the jukebox. I got nothing.
What? Oh
That's
my
not
gosh.
helpful at all. Okay, so I'm going to consider that segment a fail.
Yeah.
I'm
Dana.
sorry, Anonymous.
It's not anonymous. She's joining us later for Dads After Dark.
Fantastic.
All right, Dana, you're next.
Oh, I'm next. All right. The TTC photo of the week. I'm always excited to show these off. As you know, you go to theatercompany.com and you can see what I'm about to show you. Our homepage. And on our homepage, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you will see, photo archive, Little Night Magic.
music.
The music.
What?
Wow. Little Night Music.
Reading is hard.
Reading is so hard. This show, okay, so this show was one of the ones that no one ever came to. We talked about it on, what?
I saw it. We saw it.
We came.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, of course you guys are going to come see it.
We drove down from Dallas.
You drove down from Dallas for this one?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It was beautiful. It was a really beautiful show. It was one of the shows that I kind of bullied Roger into doing. And that show has resulted in like an almost annual Christmas party where we tend to break out into song and to sing this really complicated Act 1 song of The Weekend in the Country is what it's called. So this is Amy Hens, who you all know, recently Mrs. Potts. She's fabulous. This is little Bella Lee, who literally just graduated high school. Michelle, she just graduated high school.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when she was 8.
I know.
Like, I think I went to her 8th birthday party.
She was,
and I bought her like a Webkins.
oh my God. She's now 18 and going off to college. Okay, but what tickles me about this picture, so the young man in this photo, his name is Walker. This was the only show that he ever did at the theater. he came up and he sang a song a cappella, which is a risky thing to do. And Walker is a good example as to why, because you really don't know if the person's able to stay on key or not. But Randy was kind of just, oh man, look at this wonderfully talented man. So in a lot of Sondheim shows, there's a lot of cut songs. Like in Merrily We Roll Along, there's like the high school song that's cut from the show that Randy actually wrote a letter to Sondheim to try to get permission to do it in our show, which we didn't get to. It's fine. Sondheim actually wrote him back and said that, trust me, it doesn't belong. You'll be fine. But there's a cut song from A Little Night Music that Walker's character sang because he was kind of the butler to Amy's character. And it's cut, but Randy sure did get the sheet music and we plugged it in. Pretty sure he regretted it a few weeks in. But that's very much grilled into my brain because I had to be on stage for the entire song. Funny people, silly people, silly people. That's what it's called. This is not a silly show though. It's a really beautiful show and it's one of my favorites. And I feel like most of the people that were involved would say the same thing.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
That I think was the first show I saw Taylor Christensen singing.
Beautiful.
Yeah, she was in the ensemble.
Yeah. Her and Stacy were the quintet.
And Mary Otto, right?
And Mary Otto, yeah. Her and Stacy and Mary, and then Michael Reeves, and then Derek. I can't remember what his last name was, but Derek.
So many pictures that you're gonna have to find.
Oh. What for the
Find one of all of them.
I can do it. Challenge
Yes.
accepted.
All right, good. All right, so our next segment is Jennifer Reilly's Fun Fact of the Week.
Love Jennifer Reilly.
Hey there, Diva Dads. Happy another week. And welcome to another part of my dining room. This is Jennifer Reilly, your fun fact correspondent, here with another fact for the week. So first, I would like to introduce you all to Chester. Now, Chester is not my cat. He actually was owned by a physicist in the 70s, and he has his own pen name, FDC Willard. And the reason that Chester has a pen name is because he is co-author on a physics paper that was published in 1975. So his owner is a physicist. When he was writing his paper, he realized that he had used we instead of I the entire time. But instead of going back and changing it, he just added a co-author, his cat. So Chester is an internationally published, I guess, honorary physicist, which is more than I can say for my career up to this point. And so somewhere out there in the world, there's a manuscript with a paw print from Chester. And that is the fun fact of this week. I hope that you all are doing well. And I'm so glad that this is continuing. This has been so much fun. And I look forward to this week's episode. I'll see y'all soon. Bye.
Oh my goodness. So
Where's Deborah?
can I just say that
She's very excited.
I love cats.
I feel like you. Go ahead, Dana.
I just today, like right when I came back in here to get set up for Diva Dads, I got all of my signage needed for defending my prospectus. So not defending my dissertation, but my prospectus, which I've been working on since February. And everyone finally signed off on it. But one of the things was like, if you change one thing, I know you're pointing me, you got to go back and change all this other stuff. I feel for you, kitty physicist. I feel for you, and I'm with you. And I should have just made my dog a co-author, because I did that a couple of times where I said we, and I had to do that search, find all, and replace.
Oh, Paul can tell you how to do that.
I was going to say Paul needed to be there.
That is hilarious. Yes.
Wait, where's Deborah? Deborah, come back.
Deborah, you like kitties.
Have you ever met you remember Jennifer? Yes.
No,
Did y'all get to spend a lot of time together in Rock of Ages?
I mean, not a ton.
More and more, I feel like you two should just be best friends forever.
Okay, we'll make it happen. She's fabulous.
All right, Mike.
All righty, guys. Well, first of all, thank you, Michelle. It was amazing. And Deborah, loved it. And also to our viewers out there, please make sure you visit us at TTCDivaDads.com. There you can connect with us through various social medias, the way you so choose. We want to thank you for tuning into this episode. And please stay tuned and join us for TTC Dads After Dark.
My
Hey, guys.
TV reporter voice kills me every time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.